All right, we're live. This is the Savage Brushstroke episode 5, and we're here with Chris. I'm Ralph Jean Pierre, Precious Gorgeous, and we're here with Chris Carr, Stonehenge, Parnhash Nikovsky.
That's right. What's popping?
Yeah, we're live on Facebook now. Gosh, I guess the last time I saw you was maybe what? How long ago did I see you? Like a week ago? 2 weeks? 2 weeks ago?
I don't know, man. Time doesn't exist.
Yes, that's correct, man. There's no time anymore. What have you? How have you guys been spending the quarantine? I saw you went live with Empire Music Festival with Carrie, and that was a really powerful performance. But what else have you and Melissa been doing?
Working on stuff. This morning, I helped with one of her English classes, her AP English class, and we were talking about the origin of the universe and belief and the difference between science and religion and the commonalities between the two. Epistemology, metaphysics, and logic, as well as axiology and why things have meaning or what things mean to different people at different times in space. And it was amazing. It was like an hour and a half conversation, man. And 6 or 7 young people through digital chat trying to manage all their different thoughts and ideas and conversations coming back and forth. It was really dope.
Wow, that's so full of ideas and thoughts. I really only understood like 2 of the words you said.
Wow. I'm gonna say
big concept.
Stop playing, bro. You be trying to downplay and like, oh, well, I'm not the smartest guy. I still. You like being the sleeping like the sleeping giant that acts like they're not crushing buildings. Man, don't try to play me.
I'm a sleeping mule.
Yeah, right.
I'm so okay. So you've been that with kind of English class and kind of and co-teaching and stuff like that. You're making a lot of work. I want to give just people some context. You are on the Stonehenge Parnhash Nikovsky. You're also the founder of BK Wildlife, which is a collective. You run a space called Brooklyn, and BK Wildlife. It does a lot of things. You have a lot of initiatives that you work under. Mostly, I would say you create a lot of events where you do a lot of hip hop shows, but those hip hop shows are very esoteric, and there could be performance artists and comedians, and there could be singers and folk artists and electro and noise and all kinds of different stuff. Is that a good description? I know it's difficult to describe. There's a huge, I don't want to say matrix of things that you do.
Yeah, I think that's the difficulty is I'm into a lot of different elements and trying to describe exactly what it is. A lot of them don't fit categories. And within those arenas of not even being categorical, they don't stay in their lanes. So sure, I love hip hop. I make hip hop music, but also I'm in an acoustic group and I make ambient music.
With Alex Coe?
The acoustic group is with Alex Coe. Then I'm in a group with Jamal with ambient music. I make solo ambient music. A lot of the events we've been throwing at Gamba are oriented to folk and acoustic and singer-songwriter, and there's no hip-hop at all. But then the next day, Phil Flames will come through and we'll make beats for 2 hours and have MCs come rap. I'm really, I think, just a creative conduit, and I'm trying to accept that like I'm a multifaceted and multidisciplinary artist in the sense that like I make visual art, I do audio art.
You're a photographer,
curator. I co-run a space with Melissa. I was doing events and running spaces, with Brooklyn Wildlife. And I wouldn't say it's collective in the sense that a lot of collectives have dues or they have a set number of members or groups of people or things you have to, believe in or be a part of in order to be in it. And at Brooklyn Wildlife, it's more like, man, you show up, you put in the work, you do dope-ish, then we rock with you. And it doesn't matter if it's hip hop, if it's folk. I've always tried to make a space for marginalized voices and for people that normally are pushed to the sidelines. So we make sure I do like hip hop for real, but then we also have violin and play cello. And, I grew up in DC. And so it's important to me to make a space for like young Black men. But also I want to make sure there's space for trans folks, for folks who are non-gender binary, for folks who are from other countries and had no connection to the Black culture, and space where these different people come together. It be understanding and it be awareness and exchange.
Well, that's that's super. Yeah, I would say that's an accurate description of what you do, and still it doesn't seem to quite encompass everything. It's still inadequate to describe the breadth of things that you do. And also, we do a podcast together. We Be in the Hallway podcast with also with Carrie Blue.
It's tight. I really enjoy this podcast.
Yes, yeah, I really enjoyed too. That's a really I don't think I realized how much of an outlet I needed, how much outlet until we started doing it. They're doing that podcast, especially with you guys. I think we're all great compliments and great foils for one another at the same time. It's really, really great. So, yes, we should just jump into the two pieces that you want to talk about, and however, I would start with our pieces from peers. I would start with the one that's not from peer.
Okay. So
yeah,
I guess for me,
so yeah, just tell me whatever you can tell me about.
For the piece or the artwork that isn't from a peer, I'm kind of not a favorite, so that I can make a list of like my top 10 rappers or my top 10 favorite movies. So I will, just for the sake of this conversation, I'll root it in music, because I love Akira Kurosawa as a director in Japanese films. I love, comedians like Dave Chappelle and Eddie Murphy, and those things influenced me growing up. I love silly films like Naked Gun and some of that, Mel Brooks, Spaceballs type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I came up during the era where you were hyped to see Boys in the Hood, you were hyped to see Menace to Society, you were hyped to see these stories of what was happening in the Black community that wasn't necessarily being talked about prior. I was born in '78, so I missed out on that age of hip hop that people talk about, like, yo, 88. I was 10 years old in '88. So for me, my golden era of hip hop was like 92 to 96. I graduated high school in '96. So when The Chronic came out, that was heavy for me. Wu-Tang Clan, heavy for me. But also, so was MC Lyte, so was Queen Latifah. So was Patti LaBelle. So was, I got put on to Diana Ross and the Supremes and The Wiz, like that movie with Michael Jackson. And the different versions of Michael Jackson. Like,
yes, yeah. It's so funny how that movie, it's like hard to even pin. That movie's from like the 70s, right? Or is it the 80s? It may be 80 at the latest.
Late 70s, early 80s. I was really young.
But it seems like that hit. I think it only recently started to slow down, but I feel like that movie hit every Black generation somehow. Like I saw The Wiz a few times.
Because it had the previous generation, in the sense of, like, again, your Diana Rosses or your folks who had been live during the late 60s and the 70s and were really well known, and then kind of these up and comers in a certain way. And you have to remember, man, society now is very accepting of a lot of things. Back then, seeing young Black people involved in theatrical performances on television, on network, on that major level, you didn't see that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't see these type of movies and presentations at that time. It was very rare, And so it'd be, I don't want to dismiss all my influences. Like, there's so many things I took in as a young person, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, but artistically. And also, like, I listened to Public Enemy and NWA, as well as Poison and Guns N' Roses, and all those things influenced me. But coming into my own, The Roots, Do You Want More? That album changed my life. And the first concert I went to as like a kind of grown person, when I was turning 18, my homie got me tickets to go to 930 Club when it was on E Street in Washington, D.C. Not the big version of it, but when it was a small club on E Street, I believe. And it was Common Sense at the time, Artifact.
My favorite rapper, yeah. Artifact, okay.
Artifacts, Lords of the Underground, Beatnuts, The Roots, and like one other group, all on the same stage. And the Roots had already dropped their album, I think, at that time, or the singles that come out, Distortion and Static, and one of the other singles. But seeing a live,
is that the first? Is that their debut?
That's the one that was the major label debut. So Organics is their real first album.
Was the first. Okay.
But that, in a certain way, came out after Do You Want More? So the first one that most people heard of was Do You Want More? And when they performed, they came out with the live band. And you're like, what? Hold on. There's and I grew up like in DC, we listen to go-go. And that's live music. So rap wasn't really that big. You go to a rap show and you're like, yo, this is kind of boring. It's a dude standing on stage, walking back and forth with somebody playing records. That's not really that interesting. So when you see the live band come out, it's like, oh, this is about to be lit. And then Black Thought went through and was like, let me make sure y'all with me. Y'all like Wu-Tang? And he imitated some of the Wu-Tang rappers in the flow. Then he imitated Rakim. Then he imitated Kool G Rap or something like that. He imitated Big Daddy Kane. And then they did their set. And I was blown away. I had never seen a person rap like Black Thought, a band. This is when Scott Storch was still in the Roots. So you got Scott Storch on the keys. You got Black Thought rapping. You got Questlove on drums. You got Leonard Hubbard on bass. You got, I think the other dude, Kamal, the light-skinned dude, I think he was still in the group at that time. And Malik B was rocking. So, I mean, it was lit. And we in this kind of relatively small club compared to then how big they get. And I had never seen anything like it. And at the end of it, there was this jam or like freestyle set where Common, The Roots, Artifacts, Beat Nuts, Lords of the Underground, they all freestyling together. And it changed everything for me in terms of what hip hop could mean and its attachment to me personally and where I was in my life. And it not being kind of street oriented or gang oriented or like it having this element of intelligence and a cerebral nature without trying to be smart, without trying to be intellectual. You hear it and you just like, yo, what these metaphors are so ill, like these concepts are so wild, like how they come up with this, how they think of this, you know?
I'm so I mean, you explained it so thoroughly. I wonder which part for you was the most exciting that night? I mean, was it that the whole was just bigger than the sum of its parts? Was it the surprise of seeing a band when you were kind of used to what this idea of what hip hop was supposed to look like was? Was it Black Thought himself that scandalized you? That you were just like, whoa, this guy's such a dope rapper? Or you've already spoken to it, but like, if you had to pinpoint one part of it for yourself that you were like, that was the hook that drew you into everything else.
That was right around when I was really starting to like hip hop, right? And I had started writing raps already. I started freestyling with my friends. So when I saw Black Thought, it set the bar at like, whoa, that's how you rap for real. And seeing Questlove play, I was used to seeing drummers again in go-go bands, and there's a certain type of pocket in go-go. It wasn't that. It was Questlove was playing jazz standards on drums and then flipping into hip hop drums. Then seeing how they work together, like they were scatting at a certain point. Like there's a whole song on their first album where Black Thought and the drummer and bass player, they battle each other scatting and they gotta imitate each other. So like Black Thought,
wow.
And then the drummer gotta be like, and then the bass player got to be and they go back and forth. You know what I'm saying? I'd never seen that type of connectivity and relationship within a band or a live hip hop presentation. And Distortion and Static itself, it had this sample, and the way the raps come in and Malik B's killing it. I mean, lyrics wise, everything. It was phenomenal to me, you know?
How do you? Well, I can see it, but people who don't know or can see it. What do you think that did for you as a rapper? What standard, either lyrically, artistically, or musically, or as a concept, what do you think what DNA do you feel like you're carrying from that night?
take your craft seriously. You know, like
Okay.
be a professional in the sense of it's not joke time, and be original. You know, don't try to do what everyone else has already done. Do what you do and try to do it to the fullest extent. And don't be afraid to be different. There were people who were trying to be like, what, the Roots? What's some hip hop band? What is that? Why you got a band for hip hop? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they traveled the whole world. People thought they were underground. You know, like I saw an interview with Questlove at 92Y on Tribeca or whatever, and he was talking about they always got categorized as an underground group, but they had been making money performing already. So when they went to labels, they would present the deal. They would go in with their own terms and their own contract on some, we don't care. And if this label is crazy enough to give us a deal, we're going to win. And so from the get-go, they had such a level of confidence that their label deal was great, actually. They were not one of these broke artists type of people on the label. They were making more money than some of the veterans on their label when they first got signed to their debut. And you could feel it. You could feel that they knew what they were doing. You could see that they took what they did very seriously. You could see that they had also worked together. Like they had rehearsed, they had practiced. It wasn't just like thrown together some hodgepodge, you know. And I've seen the Roots perform more than almost any other major act. Like I've seen Della Eskia perform a lot. I've seen you perform a lot. I've seen Ohene perform a lot. But in terms of where I buy a ticket and got to go to a show and wait in line and be in a club and deal with all the stuff I don't really want to deal with, at the time I kind of like clubs. But I've seen the Roots perform over 13 or 14 times. Anytime they came to Atlanta while I lived down there, I saw them. I saw them do a free show with Black Eyed Peas before Fergie was a part of the group. And the other two cats were still in the group. And they were B-boys. They were like B-boys that rap. Ain't nobody take them seriously as like a rap group, but they were dancers and they had a lot of fun. But they did a show with the Roots in Atlanta that I saw. I saw the Roots, I don't know how many times. Atlanta, DC, New York. I had an opportunity to photograph one of their album release parties, got to hang out backstage, you know, burn a little something backstage with folks in the group. And when I was in college, my homie was from Philly, and so he knew Black Thought. So I remember being in his house. We go into the crib, we having a party in his house, and I look over and Black Thought's like at the counter, chilling. And I'm like, yo, that's the dude. Like, that's Black Thought. You know, and so they've been a reoccurring force in my life. And like one of my homies works with them and works closely with Questlove, my homegirl Laia. And so I'm constantly just like overwhelmed by their productivity, by their work, and inspired by what they've done.
See, I wish we could dwell on this. I want to move on to the next piece, but like to me, I go back and forth on the Roots so much. There's definitely albums of influence on me, and there's definitely albums of theirs that are really important to me, which I think are the ones that aren't the it's not Things Fall Apart or Organics or Do You Want More. It's different ones, but there's things. It's very clear to me why everybody loves them. They're such a powerful group in many ways. I mean, and as a D'Angelo fan, it's easy to speak to how powerful and influential they are. But I guess, yeah, I feel like you've already covered it and talked about it so much. I feel like, I guess it's a testament to them in that there's so many different them, you know. Black Thought is considered one of the greatest MCs ever. Questlove is this musicologist who's infusing all this stuff into the Roots. They're really one of the forefront people of like the jazz rap movement. They're one of the people who brought this idea of the band in rap. I don't know if they predate. I think the only other people that really was of the Fugees, and they probably predate the Fugees. Like, there's so many reasons to love them.
And if you look at the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever that was, if you look at the 5 degrees of the Roots or the 4 degrees of the Roots, how many people they put on, right? I saw Jill Scott for the first time in Atlanta. They brought her out, and they were like, yo, this is who did the hook on You Got Me, or I Got You, whatever the, if you know me something, he came out, killed it. He started doing an operatic song, then they actually did the real song. They put on Beanie Siegel. You think Scott Storch making beats for Dre? He was in the Roots. If you think about so many folks that came through that camp, in the Soul Aquarians, when they were working with Common, when they worked with Mos Def or Yassine Bey, when they were working with Music Soul Child, not Music Soul Child, with Bilal, when they were working with
Bilal, love Bilal.
What's his name? Jazzy Fat Nasties. They used to host an event called the Black Lily down in Philadelphia. I went to that. I mean, I've seen so many iterations of the Roots and some of their offshoots that like they're forever ingrained in my brain, in my heart, in my soul. It's amazing to me, you know. And now they the first like late night show band full of hip hop / black people. Come on, man.
Yeah, dope. I often think about that era when Aquarians era when they were all packed into, I think it was Electric Lady working on D'Angelo's record and then working on a bunch of records around it, and then the era right before or right after that, I think right before, Questlove said they just rented a house in Philly and they would just jam for like 2 years straight. They would just jam and have all those people come over. Jill Scott, Mos Def, Beanie Siegel, just have people come over. They would cook and they would just jam and build songs and practice. And I often think about that when I think of our scene and what we're doing and how we're all kind of hanging together and building together and growing together. Like that's what I think about. That sort of that Roots era, that Soulquarians era, that era of Things Fall Apart, where they were just like this hub of bringing artists together and just jamming, and you didn't know years later this is going to be Erykah Badu, this is going to be Bilal, this is going to be Common, this is going to be, not even 10 years later, but you know what I mean? You didn't know. I often think about that for me too. So can we get into the piece of art from a peer?
That's gonna be more difficult because, like you said, I had to pick a peer, and keep in mind, at first I wanted to pick who did I say? And you said I couldn't pick them.
I don't remember. I gotta look.
Oh, like Dose One. I was gonna say Dose One, who's
Oh no, you could have done Dose One. I if you know him, if he's somebody you know,
yeah,
he doesn't have to be a best friend or just somebody you've run across.
You know, Dose One is a cat we opened up for who inspired me, and I never heard a person rap like that ever in my life. And who pushed me.
Do you remember one of his rhymes?
Oh, from the album called Themselves, The Vaporizer of John Brown. And I can't repeat it. There's also the Crayon Sharpener. He had one where he's talking about school. And from Hemispheres, there's another one where it starts off where someone's speaking Spanish and he goes into the raps. I mean, I've listened to so much Dose One. I don't have his lyrics memorized. I'm bad at memorizing lyrics. You think a rapper is good at it? I barely can memorize mine. But Dose One is someone that broke the parameters and the boundaries on what you could do with rap.
In what ways?
Stylistically and delivery-wise and rhyme pattern-wise and subject matter-wise, there was no constraint. He was like a battle rapper, and there are old videos of him battling people like on the likes of Eminem or Atmosphere, like out at Scribble Jam. But he also had concept songs. One of the things with the group themselves, man, the way they approached song making, and Gel, who is the beat maker, could play the MPC live. This is before everybody is like on the internet showing you how they could trigger samples live. He's playing out the drum patterns. He's doing the shit like right in front of you. And those would be able to rap to the patterns. Him, Micah 9, Bus Driver, there were a couple other people where they literally could rap to, if the drum pattern was ba 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 ba, they would rap like da 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 da, could freestyle like that, you know, and it was just amazing to me. I can't get past it, and so I'm trying to think of what lyric I would pull from Dose One. Straight off the bat, I don't know. I'm not good at quoting other rappers, but I would say like Dose is a person that affected me heavily.
Okay,
it was hard for me to pick because also keep in mind, my roommate Nick was producing for Outkast when I was finishing college, whatever, and so he was in a group called Beat Bullies. So he's a person I would say that I came up with who inspired me, and who is, when we met freshman year in college, we both went to Morehouse. My homie was like, "Yo, We were freestyling. And my homie's like, yo, you should meet my roommate. He makes beats. And we go to the room, and I'm like, where's the beat machine? And he had it covered. It was back when people used to hide all their equipment because they didn't want to get robbed. And he had an ASR 10. And I'd never seen an ASR 10 where you had limited sample time. It looked like a keyboard. I'm like, how's that a beat machine? And he showed me how to sample. He showed me how he made beats. And he ended up producing our first songs. But he went on to like be in his group Beat Bullies, and they produced for Outkast and Purple Ribbon All Stars. He co-produced that song Kryptonite, like I be on that Kryptonite. That song. He made like a quarter of Killer Mike's first album. He was a co-producer on that. So I met Killer Mike right before or right when he got signed, and he recorded in the same studio as us. So in a certain way, Killer Mike isn't a peer. Like clearly he's out chilling with Bernie Sanders and LP. But I met Killer Mike in a studio where he had just boxes full of notepads. And they were trying to figure out what to do with him because he did like rap rock. And they were like, yo, that shit's not going to work. That's lame. Now, again, a year or two later, Linkin Park went 10 times platinum doing rap rock. But whatever. At the time, you got a big black dude from Atlanta. It was like, nah, we're going to do crunk music. And we're going to put you with Bone Crusher. And we're going to do The Whole World Loves It When Killer Mike was on that. But, and speaking of which, I met LP in like 98 when they did a show for Lyricist Lounge. And the homie DJ Drama, who I would consider also an early peer, he DJed one of our first mixtapes. DJ Drama worked at the pita shop on campus. So I'm in there trying to get free food, talking about like, yo, hook me up, homie. And LP and Big Just were in there because they had a show later that night. And so I remember talking to LP about how they were able to sell 60,000 records independent because I'd already done my homework on Monthly Flow. And, so seeing him get to where he got and to watch him and Killer Mike meet up is amazing to me. It was like such a synergy. And to see Run the Jewels take off the way that it has is beyond inspiring. And now my homie Leon is one of their engineers or producers. So it's like, I know each of them separately. They came together, and then the homie Brent introduced me to a dude just at his crib. And next thing you know, that dude is helping out Run the Jewels. And so the world is this big DNA swirl that's amazing to me. It's all inspiring.
Well, it's so interesting in hearing that story, beginnings, and the people you got to see and hang out with. And I mean, one, it speaks to your kind of your savvy and ability to make connections, but two, I mean, to then see what you ended up becoming out of that. This kind of, I don't want to call you self-made because that seats it in economic, but you're like, I've called you before this walking scene. Like you've created this, you've weaved this of constant creativity, constant and production of shows, and this utter DIY aesthetic. And it seems to me like you were, I don't want to say indoctrinated, but you were cultivated to sort of become this thing from all these things that you saw, these independently minded, like these people who are in it this way, and you got to be audience to that and then absorb it. And then it seems like that's all you're manifesting. That's all you from there. You have your own very rapping, a very unique approach and look at it, a very unique a philosophy toward it that's very independent, that's very I don't want to use the word defiant, but it's the only word I have right now. Just like I am what I am, and I will do it this way, and I'll provide a space for other people who feel that way to do their version of the thing.
Yeah, I mean that's really, I drank the Kool-Aid, man, and I didn't realize that even some of the people I was listening to weren't as indie as I thought they were, and I didn't realize that some of them, the marketing was to say fuck the system, fuck the money, and they were getting paper. They were out there doing what they had to do to make singles and to make music that conformed to what their label was saying to do. I didn't understand all that. I really drank the Kool-Aid and was like, indie, go hard, be yourself, don't do no corny shit, no selling out ever. Like the thing I say about myself, like I'm a creative juggernaut, the only rapper you may not know about that never sold out. And to me, that's real though. I still love music. I still love art. I still love with the people that I'm making music with, and the people like when I saw your play, What Should Be the Fear? When I was talking to people about it, it wasn't because I was going to get paid from it. It was because I really loved what you were doing. When I'm telling people to listen to Merce the Big Body Benz, it's because she raps a motherfucker's face off. And I'm like, yo, y'all need to check out Merce. It'll like your brain will be expanded, you know? And I think it is due to some of those artists that I met and the messages they were putting out. And it really settled with me, which is why I say art and rap really affects people's lives. I'm an example of it. My life is totally different because of art and rap and the concerts I went to. I remember seeing Nas at where was it? It was called Quigley's or something. I haven't even thought about this in so long. And the band started spraying pepper spray or something like that, yo. And my eyes, we had to run out. It was nuts, man. I've been to so many shows. I'm a rap fanatic. I remember, you know, meeting CeeLo out in front of the Tabernacle in Atlanta. I remember so many times like chilling, smoking blunts with Method Man in the parking lot because my homegirl knew his manager. You know what I'm saying? There's so many artists that I love, that I got a chance to meet, that I got a chance to hang out with, that I got a chance to talk. And when I worked as a photographer, I worked for The Source. I worked for Double XL. I worked for allhiphop.com. So I'm like, you know, I love this art and this music thing. And I think I got caught up, though, in not wanting to be stuck in rap. I think I got, at a certain point, I realized, like, I didn't want to only rap. I love rap, but I also love Coco Rosary. I also love acoustic musicians and Jack Johnson and Donovan Frankfurter and cats who were doing California beach music. I loved Portishead. I liked metal bands. Like my roommate had a band called Caverns, and they got a chance to open up for Clutch. And Clutch is hardcore. They rock, and I loved that show. It was one of the illest shows I ever saw. I got a chance. He took me to go see Dillinger Escape Plan. And I was like, what? I'd never seen anything like Dillinger Escape Plan. And I knew I needed to be able to involve myself in those circles also and be able to be doing shows with strange famous artists and opening up for Sage Francis, but also rocking out with metal bands and punk bands and folk bands and ukulele players and Dilly, who is from like either Maine or wherever, playing a saw and us freestyling to that. And that makes it hard to sell. Like when people are like, so what do you do? And it's like, yo, I'm into all this stuff. I'm not really that person you can put in a box. And I mean, in my experiences, like my friend Ian from Rex Arrow Films, he and I were in a play called The Naked Show together. And he was an undergrad at Columbia. I was in grad school at the time. And he went back to Pennsylvania, back to Pittsburgh after he finished school to make a film. One of the people who he found to be in the film was Malcolm McCormick. And 2 or 3 years later, it turns into Mac Miller. So then up in New York, Ian's like, yo, I'm working with this kid, Mac Miller. He's on Rostrum Records. They about to do the thing. The label has some money because Wiz Khalifa already blew up, but it's still indie. We need to shoot a music video. And they came up to New York. And one of their first music videos in New York, they shot in my apartment with me and Aaron and down in my homie Pablo's basement because we had a party down there. And so I met Mac Miller when he was 17 and watched him grow to be a millionaire. And he came back and shot another video in our apartment, the one where the girl takes his hat. And so then to see what happened and like his tragic kind of like the loss of his life, like I've seen cats go from literally you never heard of them as rappers to what? Yeah,
you've seen a full experience.
You know,
what would you this is how I want to end, because I feel like you're a person who's seen and done so much, even though you know you're just in a chapter of your journey. Who knows where the next part of your journey is going to take you with an ownership and this kind of new, I want to say this new passion you have to go ahead and try to release a bunch of material now and what you're doing with Alex. What would you say right now to, you know, or what is the thing that you're trying to give off right now to the person that you're to them right now? You're the Killer Mike to them right now. The young people who encounter you, who are following your journey either directly or peripherally. What is the thing you're hoping they get off of you as they go forward?
Be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Recognize what that means, and that, you know, I'm not rich. I have very little money, but I have rapped in multiple countries. I have been to over half the United States rapping. I've opened up for some of my favorite rappers. I've worked with amazing people like Precious Gorgeous, like, you know, I with the Summer Festival, we book over 150 live performers every year. No corporate sponsorship. you know? And so you don't need companies. But understand, if you want to make some real money, get a manager. If you want to make some real money, get an agent. If you want to make some real money, study the market and understand how business works and the cycle of economy. I will tell people, this is a life journey. I want to make music till I can't physically. I didn't want to be a person that got burnt out. I didn't want to be a person that hated the music that I made. I can listen to 20 years of the music that I made, and there are 2 songs that when I hear, I'm like, ooh, was that what I was really rapping about? But I've made hundreds of songs, so if only two, I'm okay with that, you know? And I would say recognize this life is something special and it's fleeting. And for better or worse, we are contributing to the ongoing dynamic between good, bad, righteousness, evil, however you want to define it for yourself. We are complicit and explicitly involved in that. And in what way do we want to be involved? I know that I don't want to sell poison to people. I know I don't want to sell false images of blackness to people. I know I don't want to sell images where women are disrespected. I know I don't want to sell images where non-binary folks are disrespected. I know I want to try to give a reality of what it was like being a young black man growing up in DC that moved to Atlanta, that moved to New York, and all the different people that I kicked it with. The Italian people I kicked it with, the South Africans, the Kenyans, the Vietnamese, the Japanese, the Chinese folks, the German folks, my Haitian homies, Jamaican folks, Puerto Rican, Dominican, like, you know, the reality of all this. And it's not easy to encapsulate and put into a nice little soundbite to send out. And so sometimes what you are or your reality may not be profitable. Sometimes like what you have to sell, nobody's buying it. Sometimes what you're the person out of time. And I don't mean like you're running out of time, but you were in the wrong time and space for it to match with what society is doing. And that's okay. There are artists who don't get known for 300 years after they did their art. But did they do something that made it so their art was that lasting? And I'm not saying you got to be a broke artist your whole life. I'm not saying wait till you die to get your respect or your propers. But also don't stress if you're not getting the love. You know, maybe give more love. That's something Ohene and I talk about. If you feel like you're not getting enough love, give more love. Spread more love to the world. And that's what I'm here to do, man. You know, anyone who knows me, see how many toes is that? That's a that's I had to get my toe amputated, man. And my life changed a year ago. You know, the woman I love and care so much about, you know, I had medical issues that had me in the bathroom crying like, yo, what would happen if I lost her? You know what I'm saying? And so I got a way of looking at life now, like, do not waste a second, but also don't trip. Like, you can't be spending every minute trying to plan out everything because the universe will shoot you to fade. All right. You will make a plan and the God will laugh at you and be like, you think you control this? You know? And so we do what we can. And so as artists, try to spread that love. Try to make people smile, laugh, share your truth. And if your truth sometimes has inconvenience and like is about mortality or it's about your sadness or your depression or your family members with schizophrenia, still tell people that reality because they may understand. They may be able to feel it. They may learn. They may grow from it. You know, but
they might need it.
Yeah, they may need it. And if you're a person who your natural inclination isn't politics and you like rapping about popping bottles in the club and you're good at it, don't try to make rap songs about politics. Don't try to turn into, you know, Talib Kweli just because other people liked it. Be yourself. And hopefully you can spread joy in your personal way, you know?
That's a good one. That's a good note to end this on. Thank you so much, Chris Carr, Parnhash. I appreciate you. I love you. Okay, we're gonna do. Is that good? Is that a good place to end for you?
I can finally say I love you too. Up until a year ago, I wouldn't tell people that. It wasn't about are they male, female. It was I would always say much love, or I'd be like word, you know. But Tori would be like, Chris, I love you, and I'd be like, all right, and she'd be like, really? and after this last summer, I'm gonna tell people, yo, I love you. I love you. I need to spread more love. I need to share this love. And not be afraid of love. So I love you, Ralph. Peace.
Love you, brother. Peace out. Have a good night. Post. I'm gonna remind you, but you're gonna post. Just tag anybody that you talked about in the comments.
Okay, bet.
Yeah. Okay. All right, brother. Have a good night. Thank you.
Right. Peace.